You're live.
We're good? All right, good. Welcome, everybody, to the June 10 Windsor workshop. Before we get started, if I can get everybody to stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We've got a packed house here tonight. Only can see a couple of us, but got the 10 board with us. I got the Deputy Supervisor Steve Morrell, Councilwoman Sylvia Santiago, Councilwoman Eve Lincoln, Councilman Charlie Bro. I have, what else? We got everybody. We got the Town Attorney Dave Zagon. We have our Receiver Texas Sweet Title, our comptroller is here for a reason. Doreen Casey, and I have the Town Clerk, Patricia Farino, I have the Chief, Danny Valeri, our Rec Director Jessica Dickinson. Alberto, how are you? And on the keyboard over here is Danielle Barrett for us. So before, number one on the agenda is our, we're gonna have a presentation. I have Justin Wood here from Nugent Hessler. We had our 2024 financials audited, and Justin puts together this wonderful packet for the board to look at. I know last year we started, I think it was, I want to say it was your first time coming in doing
It was for the presentation, right?
So,
yeah.
and I think it was very helpful for us. We liked it, and I paid for it. So I want to.
Yeah, I agree.
I want to hear it, and I think the public can hear it too. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Justin.
Thank you. Thank you. Just a quick go over on who I am in my firm. My name is Justin Wood, CPA partner at Nugent and Hauser PC. We're out of Montgomery, New York. That's in Orange County, New York. We are in our 100th year of existence. I've been there for 22 of those 100, and I've been a partner for eight years. And I've been coming here to the town of New Windsor since 2004. So I've been coming here for quite a while as a junior accountant, as a a staff accountant, as a manager, and now as a partner. And I've always enjoyed my time here. Before I get going through the report, I do just want to personally thank Doreen and her staff, and Susan and her staff, and Patty and her staff. Everybody in all the departments are excellent, providing me with the information efficiently in a PDF form, which gives me the ability to then discount the bill, and based on how efficient they are and how great their work is, really gives me the ability to not have to charge the full contracted price. Like I'll be able to discount the price again, just based on how efficient, how great the work was. And we'll kind of go through that in detail as we go through this. I am going to bounce around this report a lot. I have flagged my pages. I haven't had, you guys don't have your pages flagged, so I'll be patient as I go through. I'll make sure everybody's with me before I move on. However, having said that, I am going to start on page 1. So page 1 is the independent auditor's report. It's the most important part of the audit, is where we report on the town and whether or not, this is the only time I'm going to read from this, I promise you, whether or not the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the governmental activities, each major fund, and the fiduciary fund of the town of New Windsor as of December 31st, 2024, and the respective changes in financial position for the year then ended in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. Basically, what that means is we were able to give the highest level of assurance, which is what we call an unmodified opinion, otherwise known as a clean opinion on the financial statements. Now, from here, we're going to go to page 21. Okay, so page 21 is the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balances for each governmental fund. I'm going to do a quick summary of each, spending a little more time with the general fund because that is the biggest of all the funds and most activity in there. Top third of the page is revenues, middle third of the page is expenditures, and then bottom third of the page is your other financing sources, and then what closed out to your ending fund balance, which I'll go over the fund balance in detail in another page. Just some highlights in the general fund revenue section. Third number down is your non-property tax items. What is in that number is sales tax, franchise fees, and the pilot payments in lieu of taxes that are received. So the sales tax is the majority of that. It was about 5.9 million, and that's comparable to the year before. So good in that it didn't go down from 23 to 24. And another area to highlight is the use of money in property. You'll see $1.255 million there. That speaks directly to the great management of the comptroller and the cash management, moving the money into accounts that gain the most interest, right? So your interest income is in that number. And the finance department has done an excellent job of ensuring that they're getting the most interest for the cash that's on hand. So really great there. And then bottom of the revenue, state and federal aid, majority of that is going to be mortgage tax at $980,000. And that was comparable to the year before. I saw a lot of places where mortgage tax actually went down from 23 to 24. So the town of New Windsor was, stayed pretty consistent with the previous year. So that was good to see. Also in there, you're going to have, there was a police grant of $271,000. And then, right, that makes up the majority of it. Not much to highlight in the expenditure section, only that the employee benefits were up a bit. So I just wanted to point out that the retirement expense, due to a rate increase on the retirement, and of course, there's going to be an increase in the salaries as well, went up about 10%. And same thing with medical insurance. Again, rate increase, but also maybe adding some employees there as well. So both of those increases, and those are areas that we see these large rate increases, unfortunately.
Across.
Retirement, yeah, it's across the board. It's not unique to the town. No, not at all. Down below, the net change in fund balance, I'm just going to quickly compare each to what was appropriated for the 2024 budget. So when I say appropriated for the 2024 budget, that's like a planned deficit. So for instance, in the general fund, the amount appropriated for the 24 budget was $1.227 million. Ultimately, they only lost $241,000. So really the budget performed to the good in the general fund. In the highway fund, there was a deficit of $88,215, but there was $200,000 appropriated. So again, the budget performed to the good. Water fund actually had an increase in their fund balance despite appropriated fund balance. They increased up 1.4 million. Sewer had an increase in their fund balance despite appropriating $200,000. Now, the capital project, you'll see that there is a negative of almost $6 million there. So for the capital projects, all of these other funds are on a very defined calendar year budget. The capital projects, some capital projects last a day. You loan money to go buy a truck. Some capital projects last 5 years. If you're rebuilding a sewer plant, that they could last 5 years. This is capturing a moment in time. At December, for the 2024 year, how much in expenditures versus how much in revenues just for that year. In 2023, I believe that there was a large surplus. So it goes back and forth. So it's kind of a difficult thing to measure the capital projects fund by looking at a calendar year's worth of information there. The debt service fund went up by $329,000. That's directly related to interest and also premiums that are received on the debt. And then in the non-major funds, I just have a breakdown of the refuse and the ambulance. Of the 288, $270,000 of that increase is from the refuse and $18,000 is from the ambulance. The ambulance is more or less a flow through. Okay, so from there, we're just going to back up 2 pages to page 19. So page 19 is the balance sheet for all the governmental funds. Top third of the page are all your assets. Middle third are your liabilities and deferred inflows. Bottom third, which is the important measure, are the fund balances, right? So the fund balances from statement 5 flow over to statement 3, and then we give a breakdown. I'm gonna give you the percentage of the fund balances compared to the subsequent year's budget, compared to the 2025 budget. The reason I do that is because that's how the New York State Comptroller measures fiscal stress. And you have a 0 fiscal stress until you fall below 20%. Okay, so given that information, now I'll provide you with all the different percentages for each fund. So total fund balance for general fund, close to 11 million at 10.9 million. That percentage of the following year's budget is 41.43%. And then playing it even more conservatively, backing off the assigned amounts, which in this case are the cemetery fund and the parkland funds, and also the amount that was appropriated for the 25 budget, brings you to unassigned fund balance of the general fund of 7.88 million at 30% of the following year's budget. So still, even backing those amounts off, still significantly higher than the 20%. Highway, total fund balance, 43.34%. Back off the assigned, the appropriated of 350 gives you 37.19%. Water, total fund balance, 75%. Available fund balance, 73%. You'll see these items listed in restricted. They're restricted because they're restricted for highway use, restricted for water use for those funds. Sewer, 125% in total fund balance and 116 in available, 16% in available fund balance. Now, I do just want to make the note with the infrastructure funds that although these percentages might be high, the repairs for infrastructure can be very expensive. Knock on wood, they're also most susceptible to natural disaster. So to have very healthy fund balances in those infrastructure funds, I think is always a great thing, really. And then capital project, end of the year with the deficit, kind of the same story that, this is a point in time in ongoing projects. Debt service, there's $2.6 million in fund balance there. That's available for future debt service payments. So again, that'll ultimately save the residents' interest when it comes to time. And then the two non-major funds, the refuse at 34.42%. The ambulance is at 17%, but again, that acts more as like a flow through to the ambulance than a fund that's ran by the town. So 17% is actually healthy for ambulance districts in comparison to other municipalities, actually very healthy. So that brings me through the funds. I'm going to back up just 2 more pages. So the GASB, the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, require us to take all of that information that was reported on what's called the modified accrual basis, basically like a 12-month lookout on a budget basis, and bring it all together and bring in all the long-term assets and long-term liabilities as well. So, and the reason that I always go over this really comes down to one number. Liabilities in the middle of the page, the second to last liability listed is other post-employment benefits, and it's close to a $70 million liability. Right. So the reason that I bring that up is one, to explain what it is. It is the amount, it is the present value of the amount that the town will pay in health benefits to retirees for the next 30 years. Okay. The other important point to bring up there is that the New York State and Governmental Accounting Standards Board don't allow, it's actually, I think, more New York State Comptroller, don't allow the municipality to put funds aside for this. You can only budget the next 12 months retiree health insurance payments, right? That's built into your health insurance budget. But you can't put like a reserve aside to cover this liability for now. You just budget for it each year. And as we discussed earlier, that rate goes up each year.
And that rate doesn't come out until after the budget's complete.
Right, so yeah, it's a moving target there as well. Yeah,
So
which makes it even more difficult.
For us.
Right.
To make that right.
Right, so that's all the financial information I wanted to do. Just a couple other housekeeping things. Page 75, summary of auditors' results for schedule of findings responses related to internal control. There were no material weaknesses. I'm sorry, I said that I would wait and I didn't. That's my apologies.
Where are we?
70. So again, really speaks to how well managed the municipality is, because a lot of ones that I do, we do have findings in this area. So no, in findings related to internal control, no material weaknesses identified, no significant deficiencies identified, and no issues with non-compliance material to the financial statements are noted. The letter that's loose in the packet is what we refer to as the management letter. If we had specific material findings to report, they would be in here. As you can see, there are none because there was no material findings to report. And we do just attach the material journal entries. These journal entries, all these adjusting journal entries are routine adjusting journal entries that I've done every year since I've been coming here in 2004. And nothing out of the ordinary this particular year. So really great job overall. And I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are.
Like anything?
Curious why the state won't let municipalities,
Fun. So
yeah,
interesting in that, not that the school districts can fund that, but the amount of reserves that a school district can have. No, but there's kind of two sides to that coin, right? So very restricted to the amount of reserve that a municipality can have. You can have like a repair reserve and a capital reserve, but there's all these other reserves that a school district can have. However, they are required to bring their available fund balance in the general fund down to 4%. Where the municipality doesn't have that restriction and you're in the 40s% wise. So it actually gives the municipality a little more flexibility on what they can do with their fund balance. However, they don't let them put money aside for that crazy, make us book this $70 million, but don't do anything about it kind of thing. So.
I appreciate that. You did the court, I think, as well.
Oh, right. And I did the court, and the court audit went great. I'm just waiting on the feedback from the judges to provide the final letter. But yeah, Patricia and Stephanie both do great work in the court as well. Right.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you.
Yeah.
I know it usually goes
Absolutely.
smoothly. Again, thanks to everybody else in here.
Yeah, no, it starts there. That's for sure. I can tell you. There's a reason I come here the first week of April because I'm very
I
busy
don't
that
know
time
if
of
you
year.
catch your
So.
steps when you come here, but I know you had me dizzy.
That's everywhere though. That's everywhere I go. Yeah.
Your staff was great with us, and
Yeah.
we,
Thank you. I'll pass that on to them.
oddly enough, we enjoy having you come here.
Right. I
We let you know
very
that-
much enjoy coming
I
here. Yeah.
appreciate, the board wants to be obviously as transparent as possible, so. we-
Yes, and I'm always available for one-on-one. If you have my contact information, I'm happy to discuss anything you'd like. So,
You got
thank you
anything
very
for
much.
good? No, we got anything for us? No?
No?
We're all set? Good.
All
cool.
good.
I appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Yes.
Thank you.
Take care.
For being here.
Thank you very much. And I'll see your next report soon, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. Thank you.
So, the next agenda item is, so last year, we, obviously, the Community Day, was the first time in a bit that we allowed alcohol sales again. It was done by, Temple Tavern and Catering. This year, we're gonna do the same thing. It's in the town code that we have to do a temporary resolution. So we, spoke to Temple Tavern. They're willing, and able to do it again. We have had a few community day meetings, with, the committee and the recreation and the police and everything. I did ask them to tighten up a few things there, but it went well. There was no issues with it. Temple Tavern, like I said, is willing to do it again. They are required to give us a couple things. They sent an email. Everybody should have the email. They're requesting to do it. I got their copies of the liquor license today, and I was expecting, and I hadn't got it yet. I'm gonna get yelled at by tomorrow by Jess Marina, was the insurance that they're supposed to provide us. So once I get that, they should be good to go, but we're, I wanted to discuss it tonight. I was gonna have this on this June. Obviously being guided by my law office, which I appreciate. And until we have the insurance all in hand and we're legit, we'll prove it in July. Anybody have any issues with us still continue doing it?
no, I would,
The only thing I did notice that last year was that I did say that there was some holes, if you will, in the fencing around it and everything. So I've asked that they secure that more where there's only one way in and one way out of the alcohol tent, if you will. And then I did want somebody, an employee or somebody to actually post it at the entrance there.
Yeah.
That when people try to walk out with something, that they're not walking around The police, and listen, it doesn't stop, somebody can get out of their car and walk in the field with a beer in their pocket, nobody would know it, I get it, but we try to control what we're doing there as much as we can. So, they said they would do that, and, other than that, like I said, I didn't see any issues with it, I think it went okay, there was nobody unruly, out of hand, and we got enough police there, if there is, if they do get that way. So if nobody has any issues with that, I'll have, once we get the insurance and we get that all approved and everything, I'll have, the law office draw up our motion, I will do that for next month. The next one is, the Christie Babcock Recreation Extension, so, Jess, why don't you hop up to the table here so we can talk to you. So I do, obviously, I asked Jess to come here, the Recreation Director. So we, I know when I say we, my, Councilwoman, Santiago and Lincoln as well as our engineers have been talking about, we're talking about expansion, Christie Babcock Park. I will touch on first the Rossetti Park, we're gonna do, we have a couple grants there, thanks to Scoops's office that we're moving on. One for the back building, which is the teen center, that we're gonna, be talking a little more about programming and getting that going. And then on the lower part of the outside of the field, if you will, is gonna be a splash pad. Both grant, I say significantly, the grant's gonna pay for most of it, we hope. It should, the teen center again is gonna be a good, I spoke to Councilwoman, Lincoln today in reference to having perhaps maybe a little more of the teen or young kid, input in on it in the not too distant future, maybe like, do some.
Yeah, we'll have a community meeting.
Yeah, some sort of meeting and kind of get some people, some ideas. I can certainly myself, and I think Sue used to be back there in the heyday. And the chief too, I think. But yeah, we could certainly put our heads together and figure it out. So we'll have that all done. But on the bigger spectrum, something that's not right now granted, of course, we would chase every grant possible. We actually met with our engineer and we talked about a recreation facility, bigger recreation facility, building out a recreation building, a gym, if you will, out at Christie Babcock Park, along with some other amenities, pickleball, basketball. Maybe another splash pad out there. That was the conversation, but I thought we want to see how we all go here. We know we have our neighbor here, 10 Newburgh is building a building right now that I think Jess has probably seen later, sooner than all of us, but I know I went out to a big building. I haven't seen really an enclosed yet. That's, probably upwards between 15 and $20 million project they're doing there. You can, probably double that today if we're gonna do something here, because they actually had a shovel ready spot. We don't, if you will. So we have a little more work to do. As I do want to see our recreation get bigger out there, however, I do have some concerns. I will say that I have, we have a couple things that are for me are the top priority, and that would be one that we're in progress now, which is the sewer plant. And two, which would be a down the road, and now, if you will, a water plant, newer water plant up in the airport because our water plant on Riley Road, the aqueduct connection is aging and getting old. And the wells, I just assume not used for us. And then comes the recreation. I don't want to say the beauty, but you gotta realize the sewer and water are separate taxing districts, so we can certainly tax people in that way and bond it and borrow that way. Where this recreation expansion is a direct hit to all taxpayers. And it's not a cheap endeavor. I don't know, I asked Doreen just to stay here for this. I don't know, I know she had put together some numbers for us in reference to what it would cost.
Yeah.
But so myself, Sylvia, even our engineers met, we started throwing around with Jess here. Listen, how big do we want the building? How much do we want to go? So our engineer needs to know from us a number, like put a number on it and we'll build a building based on that number. All said and done, once we come up with a number that we're gonna agree on that we would want to bring back to the taxpayers. My feeling is, and the town of Newburgh did it, go out to the public for a public referendum, let them vote on it, whether they decide that it's a good thing for us to do or not. And if they vote for it, then, then we move forward with it. Because we're gonna be spending money up to that point, and I don't wanna see us throw money out the window if we're not gonna do it. Like I said, I wanna make this interactive. I want, Jess to be involved in, her thoughts or visions. And then I also wanna have the comptroller kind of weigh in as far as, like per thousand or million, what it's gonna cost our household and, to put a real number on it, to say which direction we wanna go and do we wanna make it far smaller and build off of that one day? So just when we met, I think we were going between 30 and $40 million. We were talking about because the town network right now is 15. My biggest concern, I think the easy part is for us to design one, build it and put it up. I think it's the reoccurring cost after that, the town of Newburgh, I'm not certain, and in fairness to them, and I apologize to you if you're listening. I'm not certain if they put together a big comprehensive, I know they have a rec guy or two. But when you do something like that, I think you're gonna need to blow up our recreation program. You're gonna need to hire a ton of employees. The cost of it, what the expense is gonna be to run it. I gotta be honest, our water plant, our wells, I don't think they thought it was gonna be that much to run, and when it's all electric, it comes out the electric bill, it's like, oh my God. So, these are the things that I'm concerned about, how we're gonna run this and we're gonna fund it. Because not only does this recreation cost for that building, add into that the future expenses of, you heard what the medical is gonna cost in the next 30 years. I said somewhere $70 million, so it adds up. But again, I don't wanna, we're doing stuff. We're gonna do the teen center, do a splash pad there, we're gonna continue chasing the pickleball and basketball grants for Christie Babcock Park, and whatever else we can do. But I wanna come up with a number. Doreen, do you have, did you come up with something or?
Well, in the general fund, for a 20-year term bond, for every $1 million issued, it would be a hit of about $7.15 per typical tax bill, which is a house assessed at $40,000. But
No.
so if it's say the
$1 million?
project is
Yeah.
$50 million,
Yeah.
all in with engineering and everything.
That's a
That's
shit.
about $357 increase in a typical tax bill.
How many million?
Per year.
That's for a
Yeah,
$50 million project.
$15 million.
$350.
And that's in addition to the wastewater treatment plant upgrade, which is gonna be a hit of about $280 in property tax.
Yep.
A
So-
possible water plant could be another hit of about $350 in the tax
So, and
bill.
that's the concern I have. Listen, we need to prioritize here. For me, I will tell you, it's sewer because we're in the middle of it right now. Would be water, which is even with that sewer, believe it or not, because we're in the middle of doing some design and construction of that stuff. And then I would say it would be this. But I would certainly not take a project like this on. I mean, the sewer and the water was a dire need for it. That you have to. But the recreation is something that I would, me personally, and I wanna open up to you folks, would rather see I don't want it to jam it down anybody's throat. I'd rather see the public say, listen, let's kind of vote, we'll put on a show, this is what it would potentially cost if we do this. But in fairness, 50 million is gonna be 30 some, do we build a $20 million building and is it $150 per household every year? Maybe not so bad sounding to us, but you have the retired people at home that will probably never use it that have to now pay for this, so that's a concern. Jess, what do you think? You got some?
I think it's good to be smart and it's safe to think long-term because a lot of folks typically see a great, big, amazing facility and don't know how to properly staff it in the long run. And like you said, I think I spoke to you on the phone earlier and it was mostly like, if we build this big complex and we ramp up our staff, we're entering a new industry. We're not, as much as we love our rec department and our parks, we're really not in the industry at the level that, New Windsor could be or should be. And we want to take it there, but can we do that in a smart way? And do we have ways to subsidize costs for residents? Like you said, maybe, we want people who are active adults who are newly retired or who have been retired for a long time to use this facility. I personally don't want to just build a gym to serve, let's say, sports or youth sports, as much as that's a great asset and a great facility, which would be used, in the umpteen, so many people. But I want to serve everybody. And I think, yes, I agree with having folks, feedback, have some options on the table with what they would like to see formulated as far as what programming should go in there. And then that reflects in the footprint of the building with some engineers and some design stuff so that we can work out future programming potential. And it just because you design a building doesn't mean it has to be programmed a certain way forever and ever. I hope things shift and morph because our community's faces do. Generationally, they do. So I feel like if we build something, we have to plan for in 20 years, it's going to look much different. And can we support that with this existing structure? And sure, we can flex, we can morph year to year. Doesn't have to be cookie cutter the same. You know, I like thinking outside the box. I like coming up with new ideas. And just because something happened last year doesn't mean it has to happen the same way or completely different the next year. So we have to give ourselves a little flexibility with whatever we're putting in stone because it's really important for me to be a reflection of what people want, and what they want is always going to change based on financial status, based on where we are with our tax structures, based on who's moving into our community, based on so many different variables, right? So I would love to see a structure that can shift with us. And the programming can speak to whatever we build, but we have to set ourselves up with that in mind. And as far as like, you know, operating costs and future staff planning. Right now, we're a very small rec team. And you see that because right now, we don't do our own rec sports. We have to contract out to get those things going for our community. Lots of programming, lots of potential we would love to continue doing, but we do, you know, we're a very small core staff in our rec office, and we, you know, between seniors and trips and events and concerts and camp, and there is a lot, and I give them gigantic kudos because even Heroes, New Windsor Heroes is kind of like a full-time job. It's very, you know, when you get down to it, the impact we're making with great projects like that is amazing, but it does take the dedication of a great team to do that. So with Rochetti being enhanced, I think we're going to see a lot of organic growth. Maybe 2026, I'm already thinking about ways we can utilize our current staff and maybe onboard some new programmers, some new folks that can do some programming with teens, with little ones, with older adults, so that we can have a variety of opportunities at whatever site we can. So we're going to support it first at Rochetti, and it can be a trial run, and it can also serve as a way to create some revenue streams. You can, in a way, rent pavilions for parties, you can rent rooms, you can share space with residents or non-residents for a higher fee, but there's ways to subsidize stuff and use it to what our goals are too. It doesn't have to be all those things, but we do have to find some ways to create some revenue streams to offset that burden. You know, people are putting in $500 a year to just have this in their backyard or in their town. Can they access it? Are there things for them? Does it equate to me putting in $500 by default out of my annual taxes? I don't know. We have to plan for that. We have to make sure people have a piece of the game in it.
Well, you know, for me, I keep saying that, and I haven't gone over there really, I don't know where they're at with it, but, you know, we have Free Voice right down the street there, where they're building something that we have our eyes on.
Yeah.
I don't know that they know what it's gonna cost to run it yet. I got the sense that they're, you know, they may be in for, you know, some shock, I don't know, you know, maybe they have a plan, but, I think just, you know, cleaning and, you know, obviously for someone running it, you've added a whole structure now to rent it out. That's the one thing that really, I think for me, it's a hard pill for me to swallow, is that we were gonna put $30 million into something, and is it something that your average homeowner can just go there and walk in a gym and play basketball? Probably not, because it's gonna be rented out. For the most part, yes, I understand we're generating some revenue, but we're generating revenue to pay off the building, to pay off some employees.
Mhm.
And your general public may not be able to just pop in there and kick a soccer
Right.
ball around and stuff. So, yeah, I know there are the things that I look at it that way. I'm trying to look at it through a whole entire glass there. But I know we talked about, I think, a 200 by 185 building, which is about 37,000 square feet. I know, to kind of put it in perspective, we talked about, I know the Tannenberg nixed this part of it. Theirs is all one floor. we had talked about, so the 10 Neighborhoods, they have like a 2 gym area, if you will, and they have a track on the floor around
On
it,
the
so you're
outside.
basically, if you're there as a parent, watching a sport, you're either sitting on the track or you could be involved in that person running, so at one point, they were gonna have it elevated, which we suggested that we would do.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's an expense to it, so, but it does generate some space up top too, which is, nice, you can get some workout space or something like that, so.
So they
There are-
got rid of theirs?
Yeah, they don't have enough up top, they have their track on the floor.
Did they have it up?
No, well, they originally programmed it, I believe their first time they went out for it, and like I
Okay.
said, then they kind of redesigned it, but they got a lot, they got some money from some outside sources. We'll have to chase grants.
Yeah, I don't think they're paying much for it all
So-
because of the casino.
Yeah, right, well,
We
that's what I'm
have to
saying,
pay for it,
yeah, we have to pay for it, and I know, listen, if you look at the state affairs here and how much money's been cut out of things that, the money's just not there for us, we went out and did a comprehensive recreation plan, because I actually spoke to Senator Cooper's office, and I asked, why didn't we not get this grant? It seemed like it was a no-brainer, they said, well, guys have no vision, you have no plan, so we do it, we have a vision, we have a plan, we get it turned down again. Now what do I gotta do? So I spent $40,000 on a plan, they said we're gonna get it, now we still didn't get it. So we're gonna put in for it again for the basketball and pickleball, that's, over $1 million, and hoping to get that, but, that, even if we do get basketball and pickleball, that's gotta be designed in a whole footprint now, if we take the gym here and the basketball here, the pickleball here, and the gaga pit, whatever you wanna do, or a splash pad, and then you say, okay, we're gonna do this part of it here this time and have it all laid out, if you will, we need to do that. We gotta put a number on it, which a goal that we would be willing to go with, so, I know we've talked, it's easy, I mean, for me, it's great, let's build a 400 by 400. If Newburgh did a 30,000, 20,000 square foot, I wanna do a 40, I wanna make it twice the size, I wanna be better, but you're playing with other people's money, you just can't do that, it makes it, we need to do what we could afford and what we can do. To Doreen's point, this sewer plant, I think next month, is it next month we open the bids for them, in July, the phase 2? Is it? So, well, we gotta open the bids for
July.
the sewer plant, I thought it was July.
July.
But we put a number on it and we did our best too. That can, I'm sweating right now thinking about it. I don't know how that could come out more, and then we gotta go back to more bonding, so. And the water plant, I think there's definitely more money out there to chase for that with this PFAS litigation and all this stuff going on, and, there's different people putting into that. But it's something I don't know what you folks think you wanna do, or what direction we wanna go. We wanna put a number on it and stay within a number and then work off of that number and then go out to the public with that. Which I'm not against, if we say, again, I'm not, this doesn't have to happen tonight, but, I think when the town of Newburgh's all said and done, 15-ish million, we gotta look and see what they got and see if it works.
And just forgive me, I'm a little confused, because initially you had started, which is my thinking as well, that right now we have a lot going on our plate and so forth, right? If Doreen gave out a number for this location, if we bonded 50 million, be 357, one thinks, 357, well, maybe it's tolerable, whatever. But on top of, the wastewater, which is estimated to be 280, and then if we did a water filter, that's another 350. So now you're looking, close to 1,000, right, additional. So we have the things going on now at Ricchetti, right? We don't know what those operating costs are going to be just yet. So I thought the discussion was leaning towards maybe pausing.
We can, that's 100%, we can.
That's what I thought. I thought you were
Listen,
leading to,
I
so
was-
now I'm a little confused.
Was
Or
courted-
is it
we
important
was-
to have?
If I was courted, I'm sorry, I
a
was
form.
courted to, we wanna make a recreation, we wanna do a building, not a problem, we started doing things. The sewer plant came up, obviously, in the middle of all this, after our recreation plan, and all this stuff, the sewer plant increased dramatically.
No, I know,
the
and we got
water
the
plant-
grants,
Yeah,
right?
the
Yep.
water plant, We
Ricchetti.
don't even really know,
Mhm.
what we're looking at, but, again, for me, it's far more important than that. And, that's why I'm one person, I don't wanna, I.
No,
think
that's, I just
different-
want to make sure I understand.
But if everybody's
Okay.
agreeable and, hey, listen, this is not the right time to put out a recreation building, which I feel that way. Then we don't do that. And then I tell our engineer, hey, listen, we're gonna put this on pause right now. However, the committee can still decide, I'm gonna go after a grant for pickleball and basketball.
So that's my question. So
I-
is the engineering needed in order to go after grants?
Well, yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
is a
'cause
plan
they're
needed
the
and
ones
what's
that put in
that
for it.
plan cost?
yeah, they're the ones that put in for it.
Sure,
So
and what
I-
is that?
So we did a motion already to capture any of this if we go to. any
Bonds, yes.
bonding. So say we bond $1 million, just for argument's sake, we get a grant for $1 million and we got to bond $1 million, then we've got this captured in that bonding, if you
Gotcha,
will.
okay.
But of course, engineering's not free and they
No,
gotta
exactly.
decide, and there's a lot to, determine. We had to delineate wetlands out there. We had to
Yeah.
surveys. There's a whole lot,
Mhm.
but we've, a bunch of money's been spent
Correct.
on up to this point.
Mhm.
Nothing wrong with us saying oppose it. However, if I'm gonna chase the pickleball and basketball,
Okay,
grants,
that's the part I
we
need to
can't,
understand.
I'm not, I just don't, I did originally, I can ask you, and I think anybody here will attest to it, that's how I am. I went out there, I'm like, here, put the basketball here.
No, I
put the ball
remember,
here.
I remember.
But then it's like, yeah, that's great. It looks great because the land's open, but the sewer line runs through here and the power runs through here. We gotta move this. I'm like, all right, my bad, let's do this. So, I wanna be able to, I'm good with saying, listen, the recreation building, we're gonna include a space for it in
Okay.
the master plan. But that's all it's gonna be. If the spaces, we're okay with it, 37,000 square foot, 200 by 185 building. In the future, then that'll be the space we put aside for that. Pickleball and basketball, we can agree to do it. I just think right now it's the whole, everything is just a little too volatile for us right now to be really moving forward to saying, listen, let's go
Yep.
jam a
Gotcha.
recreation.
Yeah, no, exactly. So we should create like a wish
Listen, I will
and that
tell
we
you.
should work towards.
I
Is
will
that it?
tell you, and I don't kicking me under the table too, so, I'm a little, I don't wanna say worried, but I don't know the cost to operate and run this splash pad that we wanna put in.
Okay.
We wanna put on it, it's gonna be paid for by somebody.
Mhm.
I don't really know right now, and to me, it's a little bit, it's a nice, cute amenity and everything, but. I don't know, we do have a neighbor next door here that just opened up a pool and a splash pad. Maybe we tap their, resources and say, listen, what are you actually doing? You spraying it down? Do you need a guy full time? Are we recirculating water? Is it going down there? So there is, that's an unknown right now too. Do we need an extra employee for that? So these are all things that that's my biggest thing for this park. Pickleball, I think you go out there, they police their own stuff. That's easy. You build it and they'll clean it. And basketball is pretty much, you build it and they're good. Haven't seen anything done like San G. So, if I'm getting a sense that everybody's good with like not putting out a recreation building right now to the public or in the not too distant future.
I think, oh, no, go ahead.
I had mentioned to you today, is there some way to, well, yes, I agree on coming up with a plan so we can do it in pieces like the outdoor courts. And then if we're doing anything else outdoor, if we want to do that next, and then, we'll have the space for the building when we're ready and it could always change in size and amount. But I was wondering if there was some, middle ground sort of initial structure or a compromise building we could do. And then later on either expand it or change it, like, something, maybe like a garage type or warehouse type where there's no HVAC and heating and lighting and all that, where it's like a covered court. Or if it's raining, or if it's not, it's cold, but it's not freezing, like something that's gonna be a lot cheaper than millions and millions, but it gives some more options for teams to practice or clinics that, cause they have some kind of shelter.
Yeah, I'm
Is
against
there
it.
some sort of
I mean,
smaller,
do we, obviously,
cheaper way to do it?
I think I used an example on the Valley Fire Department. Although there's a lot more to it down there, there's that building that's got 4 bay doors on it and 1 drive-through is $5 million. There's a lot to it though. There's a little more, there's a power and the whole
Right.
9 yards. Even a building like that, even if you were to put up a 50 by 50 or something like that,
Right.
they're not cheap today.
Mhm.
They're not, and you add engineering in there and it depends on where obviously it's not shovel ready out there. I'm not against it. I'm just, we just need to. Again, I think why we're here, we need to put a number on something to say, listen, we're willing to go up to $5 million to do something and put it in that space. But you gotta realize that we're gonna put a $5 million building and then either us or the next board's gonna say, take that down, let's put up a $50 million one in the base spot. I don't wanna make a poor decision by just giving a covered roof, on a spot where we're just gonna do it just because. I
Yeah,
think it's something we gotta be.
whereas I wonder if there's something, you could do in like phase one and then always add to it or expand to it, almost like a garage attached to a building. And I'm just trying to be be creative here.
Yeah,
Tried to get the DEC to give us that that was covering the gap for the city of Newark, but they wouldn't give it to us. I was gonna use that as a.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, it's something that we, I'm good with meeting with our engineer and programming, laying out Christie Backpack Park, because there are infrastructure on the ground that's gonna need to be determined whether we need to move.
Yeah.
And, I think we've agreed that we obviously wanna do some sort of building at some point. We can make a spot for that on the paper, if you will. Basketball and pickleball, I think is something that we've been chasing for the last couple of years now, but, basketball's simple, I think, to, level some ground, or we have workforce that can do that. Put some blacktop and some backboards up there. I don't think that's that hard, and I think we can do that fairly cheap, even if we want to use our own force labor here. Pickleball obviously is gonna be much more involved. How many courts do we want to do? The conversation's been, if there's a tournament and there's 6 and 5 and I'm not here to attract people from other states and counties to come here and play in New Windsor. I want it for New Windsor people. But I think we agreed we need like a 6-court pickleball with, a nice fence and shade area and blah, blah, blah. That's over $1 million, probably $1.5 million, $2 million just for that, and then add another building for, the kids to go on and open the garage door to play, and you're another 3, 4, 5 million. So we're up to 10 already. We're back to, when do we,
Mhm.
slow to roll, just chase grants. If we get a grant for something, okay, let's apply that towards the next project, if you will. But design the big picture, if you will. That's just my feeling, but want to be interactive here. I don't want to, like, Steve, you're the only one driving this and that's it. And
I also think that if we're thinking, building and our park needs some work as far as like the fields are concerned, especially, we've had so much weather. I don't have to tell you, we haven't seen the sun in a while and it's
Yeah.
taken a pounding. And we thought even we would be able to put in some work this year, but we haven't even had a break in the in the weather to do a lot of that. So I think even considering how to make our fields and just the outer area of the park itself a little more amenable to the public, like, yes, basketball, pickleball, but even just the existing fields, we need to kind of
Well,
structurally
the problem
consider
is,
that.
we need
turf.
to, at some point, we need to, and I think, I met out there with the contractor. I gotta be honest with you, I think it's just the process, and Dory knows I hate it. I tell her, hey, listen, I can get this field done for $15,000. I'm sorry, I need another quote. I get another quote, oh no, it's gotta be prevailing wage, gotta be like, I'm gonna tell you. I'm over it. I'd rather just jump on a machine. Let's go do it ourselves. Let's figure it out. Well, you can't do that. So we're kind of handcuffed on processes to do it legally. There's 2 fields out there that right now, the way we can have done, I went to Dorian, it's gonna cost us probably $40,000 to do both, maybe not quite, but maybe 25, 30,000, 15 for this field, 11 field, it depends what we do. We just can't rent them. So we're counting on some of that revenue in our
Right,
budget.
right.
So when it comes budget time, we're like, okay, we're gonna take in $20,000 on fields, but we can't close them now, so we can't fix them. So we need 1 year to scrap the fields, or 1 season, or, right now the plans are field 3 and 4 this year. I'm gonna do at the end of the season. At some point, it's gonna be like, listen, we're not renting it from here to here. We're gonna come in and do these 2 fields and make them nice.
Mhm.
And then hopefully in the beginning of next year, we can do the other 2 fields, but we need to sacrifice some revenue on some of those fields to get them back in. But it's been 15, 20 years since anybody's, since they've been touched. It's absurd. I went out there, looked at it, their dugouts we need new dugouts, so we could go out and I can go out and spend a couple million out there without even adding anything. Just trying to fix them. We've done, they wanted $15,000 to fix the roof. I got it done for 600. It's like, okay, this is pretty easy. We gotta, we just talk to some people and get it done, but
Right.
I agree. We need to put some more money. We're trying to do that. We've
Yeah.
gotten some new equipment.
Yeah.
We're, I gotta be honest with you, I'm beating our buildings and grounds guys to death. They're like, honestly, we're, beating them up bad, and it's, quite honestly, the money would be spent hiring 3 or 4 new people. I don't know if you don't want to hear that, but, getting people, because I keep, instead of keep going out, I want to hire a handyman. A door I got to replace for $20,000, I can do for, 2,500, but I got to go out to this and do that.
Yeah.
It's nuts. It's crazy, the stuff that we're handcuffed
Yeah.
on. And I just assume us put some money into some we have, we can program out there, add a couple things. So, to your point, it's not, it sounds great. It's a good idea, but I think we're talking another, when you're all said and done, excavation and the whole 9 yards, you're talking several million again. And do we want to, but, and trust me, I won't have anybody. I got a 6-year-old, gonna be 7-year-old grandson. I wanna see him come here and play in town and do all this stuff, but he's out in the town of Newburgh playing baseball and he's gotta do other things in other places. It stinks, you know? But, we gotta watch the dollar that's why we're here, for the taxpayer. So that's why at some point I'm okay with, I know we're gonna pause it now, but at some point in the future, I'm okay with, if we wanna blow this up, we need to go to the public and say, here, this is it. This is our
And we have
plan.
to have a number attached. with it.
Yes,
That's
what do
what
you wanna do?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we need
we,
to have
if
that
we're
number.
gonna go to the public and
Yes.
say, what are your thoughts?
Yeah,
We
I'm not
have,
gonna-
we have to give them something concrete to
Well,
work on.
because we could come up, like we met,
Absolutely.
we said, listen, the 37,000 square foot, which is bigger than the town of Newburgh. This is, I will tell you, it's a facility, it's a two full-size indoor gyms. I think this is what we were talking about, right? 6 indoor pickleball courts, which I think could be anything, multi-purpose room, upstairs, which is an eighth of a mile walking or running track.
Is it upstairs? I thought you said it was down.
No,
would
so the current track in the town over is downstairs, but it's in the middle of, like, you couldn't sit in your soccer mom chair and watch a game without sitting on a track that somebody wants to run on.
Gotcha.
But it adds an additional
Yeah.
cost. You gotta raise the height, you gotta.
You have a talk from there.
Yeah, so that's sort of kitchen. There's a kitchen and cafe, like a weight and cardio type equipment, which would be upstairs, I think, in some of the space. Performance space, Rockwell, there's some ADA stuff, so there's a lot of things here that we gotta, I know we've been, and Jess has been done a lot of century friendly stuff things, which is, well, it's been big for us, we gotta include all that. So eventually we need to come up with a number that we're not willing to exceed, and then we can design. Our engineer just said the first thing, he goes, how much you wanna go? You tell me and we'll design the building.
And you mentioned something before that I think is very important. I know you as the supervisor and us as a board, you mentioned that things are a little volatile. We're all kind of waiting to see.
Yeah, we're things.
I think that opinion is shared by everybody that this would go out to too. I want to, I definitely want to. I think we all do. I know you're passionate about it. You have been for years.
What other towns have something like this? Well, in the meantime, we could do more field research and.
Well, I think one thing we're not thinking through, and I know it's different because we're a municipality and things from the, outside point of view are much different, but if each of us had $5 million, you want to build a building? No, you wouldn't do it. You'd say, who can run this building to make sure it's going to run properly? And that's where I go in the public, but we're not public. But I do think if you can figure out a way where it runs financially correctly, you offset that for your taxpayers. You know what I mean? So if there's sponsorships and the programs are paid for properly and everything's done right, it can definitely work without it hitting taxpayers. So it comes back down to her being able to say, here's how we do it.
You look at like Chester, they got that's privately owned, right? But everybody goes to the Chester, whether it's indoor camp.
I'm thinking of a private.
They're all privately owned. There's not,
Yeah.
because it's expensive
Right.
for to throw it on the taxpayer's back. Now, the town of Newburgh, I will tell you, I applaud them. They went out to try to do it. The taxpayer said, no, we're not paying this. And then they get a casino comes in town and like, hey, we'll throw you some money. And then they built it. That's great. I wish, I know there's some money built up in the town, but
I still go back to, you gotta have someone that can run it and how much can we actually allowed to make on, I'm not trying to make a profit center, but
We don't want to.
I think if you had a choice to drill wells, you wouldn't have, but now you've taken the wells and you're making the water make money for you. So, it's not, municipality's not here to make money. But if you could figure out a way where she runs it and she says, here's my business plan, we can do this many tournaments this time, we're gonna have food this way, we're gonna do weddings there, we're gonna do all this stuff there. I'm gonna manage it, we have 10 people staff, we gotta run this thing through a whole gamut. Then all of us as 5 people, forget about the town, would invest our own 5 million in. Cause that's what you're talking about, 25 million bucks about each of us putting it in. It's not our money though, it's someone else's, and we're putting out a decision that we are supporting and looking for them to say, yeah, we're on board for that. I probably would say, what's the game plan? Like, what's the plan to create revenue? It's great to have a spot for everybody to go to, but if she could actually do that part. I mean, I think all the other stuff that you bring up is very important. It's obviously needed, but I think the real business plan is what you need.
And
No,
I think too, you mentioned a few different times, yes, we want to keep this for New Windsor residents, but we also have to look outside of that too, because what's gonna serve New Windsor residents is when you're getting your tax dollars, when people are spending money here, just like how tourism operates.
Sure.
I'm not saying we should be a tourist destination, but we really should be a creative example of how to industrialize a recreation department. And there's many, the Northeast up here in our region, specifically Hudson Valley, I mean, we're way behind in the parks and rec industry on the management level, on just how we secure funding, public-private partnerships. I mean, there's so much more, like, you know, there's marketing teams, there's business development, there's so many different pieces to even a parks and rec department where, you know, we have what we have, and I think most of our neighbors have what they have, just like us. And in this region, you know, that's just kind of how it's been structurally set up with the budget and with, you know, people's
Yeah.
perspective of it. So if you want to jump and build a mega facility, which is what New Windsor could really use and this area could use. One, it's nice to do it organically, seeing if we can support Rossetti expansion, seeing how that splash pad goes, seeing how that mini community center type goes, because if people don't buy into it either, then we're not really serving them. If they're not coming, if they're not spending money there, if they're not coming to programs there, if they're not helping organize things there, it's not really for them, right? It's just, you know, a plan on paper. So it's I'm not, you know, yes, of course, my rec brain wants this mega facility, but I also don't want to do it wrong. And I want it to serve the people who we're representing. So I'm, yeah.
don't want to see us going to have asked you.
Same.
I just think, I think we need to go into
Yeah.
this. And, you know, and again, again, the priority list for me is when you flush the toilet, it disappears. You turn on your faucet, it comes out. You know, everybody in every home that's the biggest thing they care. They don't care where the water, you know, for the most part, where the water's coming from or how it got treated or who's doing it or where it's getting processed. But when they see a bill and they know they can't, or they're not gonna use it or not even able to use it, it's, you know, of a concern of mine, but I don't wanna, you know, totally nix, cause you know, I have this mindset always, and we'll never have recreation here. We've done a lot in recreation. I've gone after grants. I've gotten over $1 million already for, you know, Rossetti. You know, we're gonna be doing work at Christie Babcock. You guys are bringing in revenue. I appreciate that. And I know we're revenue driven. But we need to, you know, we need to kind of just be careful with this.
I
So,
think if you look at professional sports stadiums, like I'm gonna use this as an example, I could be completely wrong, but like Shea Stadium, they don't pay taxes. So it's like the opposite,
no,
you know?
probably not.
So therefore, they run it like a business, but they don't have that over their head, and the residents don't have to pay for it either. It's all generated by creating funding to pay for everything they have. So it's literally the opposite, you
Yeah,
know?
and the state
With
cut
the-
like
with the armory.
14 or 15
Right.
million dollars.
Right, it's like the armory.
Right, there was an absurd amount of money that they're cutting in state funding for us to get, for even any of this stuff out there,
Right.
even on our water and sewer side.
$14 billion.
Yeah, we're asking for money on all this stuff, thinking that we're gonna get it, and it's like, yeah, sorry, you don't meet the criteria, which I don't understand. You think sewer overflowing because of a flood should meet it. So I think we meet Thursday, right?
Yeah.
Thursday?
Yes.
So, you know, I'm good with, and if you guys, that we actually, maybe design or program the layout. And
Yeah, we have to
future-
design because.
Yeah, future, because we're obviously we need a design to put something, and that design's gonna say if a building's gonna go here and a sewer line's gonna run here, they're gonna need, that's all gonna need to be part and
Exactly.
parcel to the design. And then again, we're gonna chase what I call it the easy money, the grant out there for the pickleball and basketball. We're gonna do that again. I mean, we didn't get it 2 years in a row. Maybe they'll feel bad for us this time. Make some phone calls to some other people, see we get it. And then we have that, and then let's get past. I gotta be honest, I'm hoping that when we open these sewer bids, that they're far cheaper than what we expected. I mean, I would be awesome if it is, then that, you know, kind of relieve my mind a bit. And then the water, you know, there's obviously PFAS litigation money out there that we're trying to deal with and trying to get, unbeknownst, you know, people out there seem to think that we got millions there and we haven't gotten a penny. And I like to try to keep chasing as much money as we can, and as we get them, at least we'll have a design plan on paper, and then we can start building each component to it.
Because if big money or grants come up, people want to see the picture or design or
It'll be there, and
so we have that to show.
listen, who knows, some billionaire might come through town and say, hey, I wanna build something for the town of New Windsor and make it, you know, nice for them, and we don't have a plan, you know, so I wanna have something on paper, to hopefully that guy will show up when he sees. And then if not, then we go to the public and say, this is what you want,
Yep.
here it is. So,
Do you
but I
want
would
it?
say, you know, priority list for me is the ongoing sewer right now, water, and then doing this.
Mhm.
I thought. So I guess Thursday we'll still meet and talk about the
We'll
big
plan
picture
together.
there, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
And then I think we're gonna be having a bunch of follow-on meetings to actual, what we wanna do at Rochetti in the building, how we're gonna design it, and, you know, what bathrooms and so on and so forth. And then we'll have maybe more interactive on getting folks involved in that if they
Yeah.
will. And then that particular splash pad down there and some clean that up, and then we'll get a design on paper and we'll go from there.
yeah, and I think with the design comes maybe a concrete timeline, not anything set in stone, but goals, right? So we're looking at short-term, 2026 budget. How can we meet some of our long-term goals in that short-term vision? You know, how can we keep moving and progressing forward to like what residents want to see and what, you know, maybe we have this mega building in our imagination and it looks great, but how can we meet certain goals that help propel that short-term 26, 27, 28? So that might be a good thing to, along with the footprint for building, kind of have a footprint in time with what in succession, like Rochetti, and then team programming, and then maybe add on another staff or two. So we could see it and residents can see it too. So it's not just we go from 0 to 60 because we just can't.
And a couple of things that screws up too, is we had a property survey out there, the property that was given to the town in our park. And they actually stretched out the wetlands a little more than I anticipated in some spots, and then some they didn't delineate as wetlands, they said it was buildable, but it's not the greatest terrain, so obviously more earth moving and stuff, so.
Right.
There's some of the challenges, but. All right, well, so Thursday we'll continue this and we'll go from there.
Thank you.
Dorian, you can head out if you want. I know you don't.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you,
Thank you.
Doreen. Thank you.
No, go, yeah, you got, I just wanted to have your numbers there for that.
Thanks.
I appreciate that. And I want to get everybody home by 11.
what?
Yeah.
Oh,
Too late now. At the rate we're going, it's gonna be about
I
one.
just said to Dave, I can get here by 10, I swear. Number 4 on the agenda is the amendment to the ground lease at First Columbia. So this is, oh God, there's so many moving parts to this.
it's not very nice.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to, I don't know, it's gonna be hard to give you the Reader's Digest version,
Thank
but
you.
so we all had the conversation with the old Officers Club, 108 World Trade Way.
Yeah.
There was Access is gonna buy the property and the building. Simone is selling stuff to them. First Columbia ground leases that. So there's a bunch of moving parts. Basically, what we're looking at doing is First Columbia, which ground leases the property and pays the town for that, is gonna
Come out.
tentatively right now give up their rights to that ground lease. They're not gonna be in, that's 3.5 acre piece of property there. Access is gonna come in and purchase the property and the building, I'm gonna say, but the property from the town of New Windsor for the $550,000. So Access is gonna write the town a check. Dave, jump in there when I'm wrong. And then Access is gonna pay Simone for another adjacent piece of property. And then Access will own 108 World Trade Way and the property next to it. So First Columbia will be out of that 3.5 acres on their ground lease, so they're gonna pay that. Basically what we did is we took a calculation of they right now ground lease 40.3 acres from the town of New Windsor. They pay us, and I'm just throwing this number out there, they pay us $280,000 a year. We divide that by the 40.3 and we come up with a price per acre and we back that out of their 3.5 acres. So they're gonna not have to pay that. Simone was paying First Columbia to kind of muddy this a little bit, their portion of the ground lease or even, and then some. They don't have to pay any of that, so Access owns it and we're all done. That was the whole conceptual plan and everything. First Columbia, now that they're losing that 3.5 acre parcel that 108 World Trade Way sits on, they have an interest in, you come in International Boulevard from 747, if you will.
Yeah.
And on the left hand, if you were to make a left, you got the blacktop plant, and right on the corner there, you see the flag and it says welcome to town of New Windsor. That's a 2.5 acre parcel right there. It's almost like a flag lot. That parcel is a right of first refusal First Columbia has now. So in other words, if we sell it, we gotta offer it to them first. If they not willing to pay whatever, somebody else is willing to pay, they don't get it. They wanna replace. So there's 3.5 acres that they're pulling out of the lease. They wanna put that 2.5 acres in the lease. For a particular fee that we have not decided, they threw a number out there. We talked to them. However, the deal was with myself and First Columbia. We needed to finish, and I spoke to Dave because he was, obviously behind this with Access's attorneys, Simone's attorneys, First Columbia's attorneys and ours. We said, let's do this deal first. Let's sell the property. Let's close out 108 World Tradeway. We have to amend the current ground lease, I believe, right, to pull this 3.5 acres out of it. And then when we're all said and done with that, we're gonna bring First Columbia in and I'm gonna talk to them about. So the town is losing a little more than $23,000 a year from the ground lease of that 3.5 acres. Perhaps replacing that with the 2.5 acres now, but we gotta come up with a number. It almost seems like to me a little bit that, First Columbia's attorney now that's involved is kind of, he wants us to come up with some sort of deal and number prior to them agreeing to this, which they were agreeing with Simone and Access all along. So we're in the middle of that. So the possibility of, it's still a good possibility that this 108 World Tradeway deal happens and they settle. If they do, we'll sign off on it. Eventually Access pays us. And then once they pay us, I'm gonna move to talk with myself and Dave, and First Columbia talked about the other 2.5 acres. I will.
So what would they do with that? Why do we?
So they have they say they have the right of first refusal that it adjoins it, but so if you were to make that left that I'm talking about, and on the right-hand side is that lot, just past that's a building that they ground leased from the town.
Yeah.
That it joins that. They have a tenant already that wants to put a 12,000 square foot building up. I don't know who the tenant is or not. So First Columbia will do it. They did it on all their other properties of ours up there. They actually will build a building and then rent it to the tenant and they want to do it. So he wants to put a building there. That's the face of when you're pulling the Windsor, blah, blah, blah.
I don't want to change that.
So, well, we got to come up, so just the lot past that is gonna be the place where they're gonna build sheet metal roofing. So it's gonna be a warehouse, and then the one past that on the right hand side is gonna be the pharmaceutical company, so when you pull in, it'll be, built up. I mean, we talk about, tax dollars and getting money for a piece, that would be.
Get a rendering, that's all.
Plus they pay, and that's all, plus they pay a couple bucks too, to do this, so.
The whole like.
That's gonna be a separate follow-on conversation, once we get into a negotiation phase with them on that. I'll certainly come back to the board and say, this is the deal, this is what they wanna do, and then we'll go from there. So I just wanna say that I thought we were gonna have a deal done and finished, but it seems like that there's a little bit of, I don't know. So a little bit of muddying of it, we're trying to unmuddy, I don't know if it's gonna happen, but hopefully it does. And
Maybe I'll have.
I don't know, I don't think there's anything later today, right? Nothing happening more of that yet. Yeah, so, well, it is what it is.
Get them to propose it, put it in paper, put it in writing, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. So we're trying to get all that done and see what happens in writing and, I don't know, we'll see. I think they'll maybe come to their senses. If not, then
You'll figure it
then
out.
Access doesn't come and, that's it. And that's,
You'll figure it out.
yeah, so, the next thing on here is the federal, self-storage. I just went, on the, agenda, we're gonna have 3 motions, and one of the reasons I want to bring this up, we normally do, when they do stormwater maintenance bond, you always see this every time somebody has to post a stormwater maintenance bond, a stormwater facility control maintenance agreement. There is though, now this is the feral storage, this is the old Lander paving on property on 32 or 8, or Eve used to live. Oh, so.
My husband's family's property.
Yeah, they're feral apartments, but I do see a new for sale sign up there now. So, but feral self-storage, we agreed to do some almost $100,000 in sewer upgrades for us in there, and that's actually a pretty bad pinch point, if you will. For the town is in that particular, because there's a turn and bend and it causes a lot of problems for us. So they're agreeing to do some work there, so I don't know if they're gonna get all these approvals and then just sell the project to somebody. I know a lot of people do that, they get subdivisions approved or business approved, and they get them and they sell them for twice what they bought them for. So that's just something you're gonna see on the agenda, that there is some movement on that in reference to them, hopefully, and listen, do we need another storage unit? No?
No.
They're a pain, you know, we got one there, they got one in Vale's Gate, got one going, they're going all over the place. I think
Maybe they'll sell them.
at some point, I know Dave doesn't want this, but listen, and I do agree with Dave. I said to Dave, we gotta put a moratorium on this, and he has a point. He goes, you know, we just don't put moratoriums because you don't ever wanna see building there again. It's not, we, you know, quite honestly, you know, we could stop them for a little bit, but you know what? For me, at the end of the day, although they're a pain to the neck, they're not a strain on the school district, they're not a strain on the traffic, they're not on my infrastructure, water, my cops aren't there all day.
Money, taxes.
Yeah, my cops aren't there all day, the ambulance are picking people up, so it does, you know, on one side.
Because people are using them, they
Well,
wouldn't have.
and that's the problem, that's the bad side of it, is, look, people are running businesses out of them, they're running the tile store and the electrical bin and all this stuff out of them, they open them up, they go do what they gotta do, and that's where they go to work, at the storage bin, so it kinda circumvents, you know, some other things, if you will, but they're here, and right now we're.
Plus, we did the comprehensive master plan, you'd have to go back and.
Yeah,
And that if you
no,
want,
they're,
really.
listen, between them and solar farms,
Yeah.
I don't know what's worse.
Bigger, that's the one.
Yeah. The next one is we did finally get the intermunicipal from the town of or town of Cornwall for police our dispatching for the oh no, I'm sorry. This is the village of Cornwall.
Right.
So the village of Cornwall called me. I know they changed the guard down there. There's a different mayor down there,
Mhm.
and they had gone out to an RFP for all of their work down there, and IT was one of them, and since they changed mayors, they tried to slip in a higher expense there on him, but he caught it and called me up. I give him a lot of credit for catching it. But he called me back and asked me, we don't do a whole ton of work for them, although we do some work for them. We don't do, you know, we're not making $1 million on them, but we're gonna continue charging them the $120, $125 fee. I try to do 150 an hour, but it's 125. And then they have to pay you overtime and weekend and holiday rate and all that stuff. And he goes, I can guarantee you, we're not gonna be working on overtime, weekend or holiday. So, you know, he's telling us that he's never gonna call us for that stuff. So, I said, "Man, whatever, it's not a big deal. It's, and again, John McDonald, said we don't get a ton of money out of them, but it's still some money we get out of them and it helps offset our cost of our employees. So, we're just renewing that with them. That's all it is. So I just wanted to bring this up and obviously get it out to the public. And I think I shared with the latest list with you guys with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had, you know, I gotta be honest, I've been driving, even when I just come home to here or driving around town, I've been noticing that it's just been, the town is just, looks like crap on a lot of homeowners, people just don't care. They think it's like a Sanford and Sunville. So I, you know, I kind of pushed on the building department and the fire inspector's office and say, listen, I'm gonna start giving you some lists of. I'm gonna drive around. I'm gonna give you a list of properties that either high grass, cars in the way, just basically it looks like crap. And I said, you know, because normally anybody that complains to the fire inspector's office or building department, they require it to have it in writing because they don't want anonymous because everybody's gonna start complaining about everybody. And then verifying it. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna take the E for it. So I went out. As you see, there was the last 3 times, you know, the list I'd given, who's done, who cut stuff, what's been cut by the town. I will tell you, since I've gone around, I've noticed a lot of grass cut. I noticed a lot, because then nobody wants to pay $1,500 out of the loan.
Mhm.
I noticed a lot of vehicles removed, people starting to clean up stuff. I personally did see a house in Ducktown. The guy came in my office, loaded for bear, screaming and yelling at me. And I noticed he's had a couple dumpsters and dump trucks in front of his house. His house is starting to get cleaned up a little bit. I told him I was gonna be at his house on May 25th with a front end loader and dumpsters and everything, and he started cleaning up himself. So, you know, I know, it's not favorable to a lot of people, but a lot of people are just tired of seeing, you know, stuff, and it just, you know, I think it was enough's enough. So I did pretty much everything has been identified, if you will,
Yep.
from the thruway overpass on 94 and the thruway overpass on 207 and 300 east. So this end of town has been done. So if anybody's listening, you haven't mowed your lawn in the west end yet?
I'm listening, I just need
I
to know when.
So get yours done. You've got the trailers on your front lawn, so I'm And I'm not, I don't, and I gotta be honest with you, I'm not picking on anybody. It's just if it's a property maintenance issue and it's a violation of the town code, you're gonna get either a phone call, and I'm asking the fire inspectors, what they do is they go to order a remedy, which is basically a warning, like, please clean this up, we're gonna have to need some time. And then after that, then they'll do a violation, and then you'll go to court. So we did put it on the internet. There is a form that you can fill out. So we're asking people. I don't think not one person has filled out a complaint form yet. So whether it's they just don't want to go on record or they just want me to do it. So I will ask you if any of you folks see something, if you want to just either shoot me a text or email, I'll certainly take care of it. I on there.
Don't drive by my houses.
I've
What's your
done,
address?
you can have more.
One,
You
right.
can't have more than one.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of people don't realize too, and I get it, but this near maps is a wonderful tool. It shows images of properties from 15, 20 years ago up until tomorrow. So when people say, I don't know what you're talking about, it wasn't there.
How current is it actually?
It's current, it's
Like
pretty
a
good.
day?
You can have
No,
one
not
on
a
one.
day, but it's,
It's
it's pretty good. So it shows, and you never know, you might see our, new drone unit flying over. If you do, we're checking things out. But yeah, no, like I said, all I'm asking people is just take a little pride in your property. That's all.
Yep.
I mean, and I understand the rain has been horrific, so that's why I said, listen, don't go too crazy on these people. Just give them a chance to mow the lawn if it's, when it's gonna be longer to dry out in this, but it looks like this week, it looks like it's gonna be pretty warm, so give people some time to get some. But, I gotta be honest, there's the 47 grills in your front lawn and the 8, unregistered vehicles with trailers, and it's just not for New England.
My mower won't start and it's trying
So,
to fix it.
yeah, exactly. People,
I'll
and
get it
then,
back to
yeah,
work.
if somebody's mower won't start, they try to fix it like 12 times, so 12 mowers later, they're still all sitting there, so. So that's all, so I put that out there, I just wanted to give everybody, just a couple things that I didn't put on here. First, I was writing notes. I'm sure some of you seen, there's some headway, Anthony's not here tonight, but there's been some headway and paving out of Stewart. So they're doing,
Oh, yes, very happy.
so what they're doing is, they're doing what they call a true and level coat, so they have to true and level it before they can actually come and top coat it. So they're doing that, I have gotten a lot of positive.
Yeah, so did I meant to say that, sorry.
They,
I meant to tell Charlie.
the truck drivers are all excited because it's a smooth truck ride now. They're the ones that are destroying it, and they're like, oh my God, it's so much smoother, like, yeah, great. But our plans are to do the main, they have true and level Brooks, which goes into the highway garage, they're gonna do in front of the blacktop plant, Hudson Valley Avenue. They're gonna ask them to hit part of Karate Lane up to ENT, Hudson Valley Avenue over from Amazon over into the main drag, and Avenue Americas too, we're gonna do. We got, so as I'm sure as you know, we actually had some meetings, I got, 1,200, and this may not mean a lot to people. Matter of fact, I went out and looked at some of the blacktop, and I'm like, how many tons is that? And they're like, 407 or something like that. And I'm like, so I thought I had a big deal here, but I got 1,200 tons from the blacktop plant donated until I saw it. I'm like, you kidding me? I'm going back there, I'm asking for 12 million. Like, what is 1,200 tons?
You can cover this.
And they gave it to me without even thinking twice about it. Now I know why, because it was enough that I could have put it in the trunk of my truck.
It's stuff that falls off
Like,
the
you
truck.
kidding me? So,
Yeah, it's on the.
so we did
Yeah.
budget 140,000 for blacktop out of Stewart this year, which we're gonna use, and they did, so the 1,200 tons equates to $93,600. We budgeted 140,000, and then they've agreed to any tonnage over the 1,200 we're gonna give us, they agreed to give us at a reduced rate, instead of 78 per ton, they're giving it to 74 per ton. So it's 3,100 tons, the free they're giving us, and $140,000 worth is 3,100 tons, which apparently does a lot, I guess. I guess if you're putting 5 inches thick, it's not so much, but I was excited until I saw how much it was. And then, but listen, there's Stewart people are people too. We gotta make sure that's paid out there. I'm trying to get that. We got a lot of industry coming out there and people gonna build, and I go out there and I lose some teeth driving down them
I
roads.
was
So
gonna say, like, so if we're talking about, possible lease and the other companies that are coming in there, what do we do if those roads need additional?
So
maintenance?
this is our struggles here, and this is why I'm trying to, so I think we all know the infrastructure out there is awful. The water main breaks, there's somebody, and this is the fear that we have when we're blacktopping them, that the Viber roller, as they're rolling it, could start breaking stuff, we're gonna be, but I will tell you, I said, if we go out and pave every road beautifully, if we dug up 100 water mains, them roads are still gonna be better than they were when before we started paving them, because they're absolutely god awful.
Yeah.
To reclaim them, and that's a lot of people don't understand, it was an old military installation, all the roads out there are concrete, thick concrete. And they got a blacktop skim over them, and then they, to reclaim them is a lot of money and the right way. To your point, Sylvia, we have a lot of industry coming out there that they're gonna be required to dig down these roads, to put sewer mains in and water mains. So some of those roads are gonna be patched for now and true and leveled and not paved, because they have to come through, dig these, and then we're gonna require them to pave them to make them right.
Right,
Okay.
full.
There are a couple of roads out there that have no infrastructure on them.
Yeah.
Like Hudson Valley Avenue has one pipe running across it, which we're not worried about, is gonna be paved nicely. So there are some of them are gonna be far better than what you're driving on now, so
So the question is, when's the last time we were paid? It's never.
it's been patched for like.
Yeah.
So like, but you got town roads that have been paid, so you should definitely have it in the circle.
No, yeah, so we're gonna hit all them, and then, quite honestly, somebody goes out there and wants to go buy a piece of property and they leave there with a headache and a couple of loose teeth. What the hell is the sense of being out there? I'm like, I wouldn't want my business out here. So I said, we gotta spend some money to make them presentable, to let somebody go out there and wanna buy.
Prime real estate. huh?
Yeah, so, and that's what I'm saying, we're saying prime real estate, but it's like somebody was like a landing zone for West Point or something.
You need a donkey.
Yeah, exactly, it's terrible, so we, that's in the middle, as you see that.
Yep.
I will tell you that, I don't know, I'm sure you all remember our police department generator blew up downstairs. We're in the middle of doing that, we did file an insurance claim, and we were told today that so the whole generator project, because we have to put it outside, and now we're gonna generate the entire building, it's about 115,000. We're getting a $94,000 check from the insurance guy,
Awesome.
so, which is awesome, so I will tell you. I haven't got her to put the generator in yet, but I give Jess a lot of credit, because Jess did all, she's dealing with these insurance companies, every time she hung up the phone, she just had to go for a walk, she's like, I can't take it. She's definitely getting stressed out, and I don't blame her, because I had to deal with a couple of these people, but with all the hard work from Jess, we actually ended up getting a
Awesome.
check, so, which is good, so we're gonna really do a big upgrade in that. And just one last thing before we go, I just want to bring up, so, and I know a couple of the board members have actually, have emailed me, or talked to me in reference to some either intersections with stop signs or some speed limits, so, and I've gotten a number of calls, people on certain streets in the town, so I talked to the chief. He had his guys, he's got his team out there with their covert survey equipment, and we've done a lot of streets. I will tell you, Cedar Avenue, I'm just gonna throw a couple out there. Cedar Avenue, Blooming Grove Turnpike, and Tolman Road, the excess and the speeds are over 75% on these roads. So
Yeah.
matter of fact, today they hammered it. They got a number of tickets today.
Good.
I have seen, and I know people like that, and I do monitor the internet, because I do, when people complain, I want to get on something and fix it. I noticed a lot of people out in Independence Drive and stuff are complaining about people speeding, and,
Oh, yeah.
and so I had mentioned it to the police department. They went out there and did a couple traffic posts. Just the only thing they've done right now is a stop sign post out there right now. They've written over 15 stop sign tickets already to all residents.
Yeah.
So
Great.
the residents that are complaining are the ones that are violating.
It's through the reserve.
Yeah.
That
The
big.
second one, yeah. So right now we have the.
Oh, residents of that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
of the reserve?
No, they are. So we have,
Same thing happens here.
yeah, so we have the covert speed thing up there. We had it up there for a week. It gave some
200
numbers. But it was the numbers he felt there was something maybe wrong, so he has it back up there now. And I will tell the people, I know everybody wants a stop sign, they're not stopping at them to slow the people down. And so now we're gonna be out there doing a ticket ready campaign and all these spots. So they did a ticket ready campaign on Cedar Avenue today. They wrote like 10 or 12 on Cedar Avenue. They wrote a bunch of Blooming Grove and Tolman Road. And they're gonna hit out there. So I do ask the people, keep complaining, and I'm gonna send somebody out, we're gonna do something about it, so we're writing tickets, so Again, normally what happens, it's the people that are complaining, or it's the neighborhoods, the people that are doing
No,
it.
it's the
So,
guy's wife.
yeah, they're not cut throughs there, a lot of these places. They're just, I mean, actually Cedar Avenue kind of is, but nobody's going from Bethlehem Road to go fish at the Mount Airy Road, it's
Right.
people that live there. And there's a lot of time, you can almost tell when school's out, you can probably guess that it's probably somebody's kid driving faster because it's this time of the
Yeah.
day, high school gets out, so. But I will say, the cops did a 2-day buckle up.
Mm.
And they wrote over 300 tickets in 2 days. So I'm telling you what, I will give these guys a lot of credit. I mean, I've called downstairs to the chief, or the deputy chief, or one of the sergeants. And instantly, like today, I got a text message from a guy, Cedar Avenue. He goes, "Thank you for the motorcycle cop and the two patrolmen out there today." So if people complain, you guys have some complaints, let me know and we'll hammer. I know we've done some.
Yeah.
Stop sign surveys that didn't
Mhm.
pan out. And we've done some that have. So we're gonna clean properties up, and slow people down. That's it. Get everybody home
Thanks,
safe.
chief.
So I appreciate that. Like I said, the tickets, they're out there and these guys are out doing them. And you guys got anything else that you wanna throw out to anybody, public or no? Just one last thing, the Katrina did send me the Heroes program. So to date, there's been 91 submitted,
Well, you see a bunch of them now.
79,
they're everywhere.
79 are hung.
It's a lot.
7 recent submissions are in process and 5 are waiting for more info to proceed. So again, I can't thank Katrina enough. I know she's, and anybody down the rec stuff is doing, but now Katrina's been
How many we have up, you
You've
think?
been dedicated to
79.
that.
Yeah.
How much are they?
Let me rewind. 79 up. What's that? Yeah. So 250. 250. So there's gonna be over 100 in the next couple of weeks, which
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
pleased to see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's awesome.
Yeah. So, and right now, they're on 94 and Union Avenue. The next bunch will go either on 300,
Yeah.
once we get some to fill
Oh,
on, and then
awesome.
32. So
Okay.
we're gonna have them all over the place.
So
So,
what do? They just call up? You have to have some sort of proof?
yeah, you go online, and you fill out the whole thing and then they gotta approve it. These are all either people that were from New Windsor at one point or living up to them, so. I just wanna keep this going because Danielle's gonna sit here the whole time. Executive session. But yeah, no, that's it. Nobody got anything else, so we'll,
Make a motion to move towards, what would be personnel, highway, police, litigation, zoning.
yes,
I will second that. motion.
second that. Thank you very much. I appreciate everybody coming.